Welcome, Mile High Jeep Club members and YouTubers alike. In this installment of Jeepers in the News, we're reviewing June 1967. Why June 1967? Well, we just wrapped up the 57th annual All for Fun, and I wanted to review some of its earliest years. With that said, let's turn to page 24 and get this started. Designed principally to give out-of-town Jeepers here during the Jeep-O-Rama a chance to see some of our mountain country, trip planners from the Mile High Jeep Club and others will act as guides on a series of one-day tours. Of course, it is hoped that there will also be a good turnout from the club. Rather than a long trip necessitating the taking along of empty camping equipment, it was decided to headquarter at the commodious Golden Campgrounds. Even though this will necessitate a little extra driving to and fro, participants can stay overnight in the same place and go on one or all of the trips as they choose. Dates are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, July 24, 25, and 26. Believing visitors with not much time would prefer jaunts where they can see the country from high vantage points, stop at a few ghost towns or points of historic interest, and move along readily. These tours are not designed for particularly rough going, at least not for very far, and bogs and rock hopping are avoided. If there is demand for something rougher, it can be provided. Usually groups are willing to settle for not over 125 miles, with maybe half of it on the highway and the remainder on lesser roads. Following are suggested trips from which the planners can make a choice. This does not necessarily mean that the committee, headed by James Schenfeld, is bound to use these particular trips or may not make changes in their routes. At this early riding days for particular trips have not been decided, but if turnout is large, a choice of trips will be provided each day. Trip 1. Theme: Divide Hopping. Golden through Red Rocks Park to Morrison, then on Highway 285 to Webster, northwest up Hall Valley on stage route of the 1880s. Since this section from Handcart Gulch over Webster Pass is impassable, Jeepers conquer the divide here by swinging to the east and going over the top of Red Cone, 12,806 feet, part of the rim of an old volcano, and dropping down to Webster Pass. Breathtaking, but not particularly dangerous, less than a dozen miles of slow going. Our advisor, a mythical creature called Uncle Dudley, has to have a name for everything, even if he has to invent one. He calls the Jeep tracks leading up to Red Cone the Donley Trail, the cone itself of Red Cone Pass. Upon Teller Mountain, where tracks lead towards Swan-Dyke, he calls it the Macaulay Trail. On this trail, here you will pause to look down at the whale mine at the upper end of Hall Valley and see a path coming up from the bottom he calls Handcart Pass. He claims mendicants pulled or winched their carts loaded with pots and pans several years before Webster Pass was constructed in 1879, and that they went down to Montezuma via Deer Creek. From Webster Pass, those who may have had enough bouncing may take an easy road about 6 miles to Montezuma. Others may want to climb back up the divide over Teller Mountain and go down Deer Creek. This once famous mining town is tucked between high mountains. It still has a post office, maybe a dozen people. If time allows, there are a number of side trip options, including St. John, 2 miles, Crooked, Morgan Gulch, as high as 13,000 feet, or Peru Creek or Horseshoe Basin. From Montezuma, it's about 6 miles to Highway 6, over Loveland Pass, through Silver Plume and Georgetown, back to Golden. Trip 2. This is designed to show some of the early mining country after 1859 and give an idea of what roads were like when they ran freight and stage lines through this country. From Golden up Clear Creek Canyon on Highway 6 to Idaho Springs and Dumont, a narrow gauge railroad ran up the canyon for about 50 years. But long after the railroad was gone, they made a highway out of it in 1949. We don't know much about the Yankee Hill stage. It is assumed there was from the earliest days a well-established stage run up the canyon to Georgetown. In the 1870s, the narrow gauge railroad took over the transportation business. Off to the sides of the gulches and on the ridges were mines and lots of people who wanted mail, freight, and passenger service. So to give this service and make a few bucks, stage runs like the Yankee Hill carried on maybe as long as the mining lasted. Certainly the stage did not follow this rugged route, as some ghost town riders have said, because it was shorter or easier than Virginia Canyon from Central City to Idaho Springs. From Dumont northwest up Mill Creek, and then more or less north on the circuitous old stage road to ghost town of Alice and St. Mary's Glacier, where they ski in August. Still on the stage road over Yankee Hill and down to Central City, with its once so-called richest square mile on Earth. Most visitors to Colorado like to have a look at this town in Gregory Gulch. If ahead of schedule, the group could turn north along the east side of Yankee Hill, past the ghost town of Kingston, then northeast to Apex, population a handful in the summer, then down Pine Creek to Central City, or over scenic Dakota Hill, and down another Silver Creek. There are 3 in this area. Lots of options. Back to Golden, down Golden Gate Canyon, a road dating back to the gold rush of 1859. As a toll road, it paid better than a gold mine. Shown here are maps of these various trails. No, sorry, my apologies. Not the current maps. Let's go back to the newsletter. Yep, those maps. These are the maps as provided in the June 1967 newsletter. If anyone can follow these and understand exactly where they're going, I will buy you dinner. Lastly, I wanted to share what was on the front page of the June 1968 Jeepers in the News. You can see here there's a letter from the state of Colorado, from John A. Love, the governor at the time. Mr. Fred Henning, Mile High Jeep Club. Dear Mr. Henning, first, our sincere apologies for the lateness in responding to your very kind letter. After discussing this matter with the governor, we are pleased to inform you that he will be delighted to proclaim the period from July 15th through July 20th as Colorado Four-Wheel Drive Week. Would you be kind enough to call me at your earliest convenience so we can set up a mutually convenient time for the signing of the proclamation? With best wishes, I remain, sincerely, Patrick F. Murphy, Appointment Secretary. We sincerely hope you enjoyed this installment of Jeepers in the News. If you'd like to learn more about the club or possibly join us for next year's All for Fun, please click on one of these links and give us a holler. If you enjoyed this video, please do us a favor by liking and subscribing. The more we can grow this channel, the more we can grow our club. Thank you very much for watching, and see you on the trail.